Okay. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming today. So today we have like a special session with Wassim Z Alsindi from 0xSalon Salon. So just like a brief like introduction to like this event. So like a special program, we're going to have like 2 events today and like another event in Friday 22nd next week. And today is like the card game and discussion. And Wasim, we have Wasim here. So Wasim, I think like some of you may like know him already, but I just want to like briefly introduction. So yeah, Wasim specialized in conceptual design and philosophy of peer-to-peer system. He had an editorial column at the MIT Computational Law Report, and he also like the co-founder of MIT Crypto Economic System Journal. And Wasim also curate art festival and laboratory, and also publish like experimental music, fiction, games, poetry, and speculative scripture. And like his project, 0xSalon is like a collaborative project which critically interrogate the digital culture through Discord event and residency. Yeah, so just thank you you all again for coming here, and yes.
Thank you, Prao. Thank you to everyone in CityCity for hosting us. It's really fun to do these things on the side of a trip which brought me to Bangkok. Okay, yeah, so I think we had like a little introduction. So there'll be an event today which will be around a card game that we made a couple of years ago. And I'm going to, we made over the last few years, let's say, and finally was published last year. And then next week we'll do like a short talk, and then we'll do a kind of game performance of an interactive storytelling environment that we made, computer game. Okay, so these slides are kind of jumbled up, so just give me a minute to, so we already said this about the salon. It's basically an event series for like weird conversations that started in Berlin about 5 years ago, and they moved online into pandemic, and now it's spreading around different places. And so we have these conversations behind closed doors. We don't broadcast the recordings of those conversations to try and help people feel that they can speak freely about important or difficult topics. Then we realized that it would be nice to be able to communicate the sorts of things that we talked about with the people that weren't in the room. So we started writing reports, making like kind of podcasts, and then eventually starting to make like creative literature, and then various kinds of media art, I suppose. So we started a residency program, and about a dozen artists and philosophers have gone through that in the last few years. So yeah, we are kind of running a counter institution. It's kind of like a independent, creative and theoretical research group, mostly in Berlin, but now spreading further and further apart. It's great to be here. Okay, so we pick topics to discuss in these events. They're usually around kind of paradoxes or insolubilities in digital culture or tension points as we see them, and there's just some of them on the screen there. And we made a few different projects, which we're going to show you some of those next time, and we're going to also show you one of them today. So I just have to find now the next set of slides in this very, very large slideshow. Okay, so the other thing that's here, so the reason I'm in Bangkok is because there was an Ethereum conference. Ethereum is a kind of cryptocurrency blockchain thing, and they had a big conference at the Queen Sirikit National Convention Center, which just finished, and myself and a few other people that are here got a kind of a art scholarship to come here. So very grateful for that. And there was an exhibition of our works inside the conference center. And so I made these kind of panels that you can see behind you with a friend in Singapore, Darius Au, who helped with he made a custom font that we've been using. It's also on the logo of the salon. You can see he designed those. And I wrote a poem about infinity. And that is what's wrapped around these panels, these kind of stained glass mosaic-looking panels. So anyway, that's something for you to look at if you dare. Okay, now I want to say something about the game that we're going to play. This is a spooky castle that one of our residents made. Excuse me. Haunted castle of the salon. Oh, what did I do? It's too spooky.
Yeah.
It's too spooky for an Adobe Acrobat reader. Yeah. Maybe close it and open it again. I think maybe I pressed the wrong button. Yeah, technology is always trying to censor me. That's what's happening again.
Close the program.
Close the program.
Okay, we need to wait a little.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, so let me tell now we're going to go to like slide 101, I think, something like that. 101. 101. I think that's right. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, don't get it wrong because that's what I did last time and it crashed. Okay, right, great. Okay, so here's a spooky castle that one of our 0xSalon Salon residents, Sammy Wheeler, the media artist, made for our labyrinthine representation of this card deck. Okay, so there's actually like a nice story about the card deck. So the idea behind it, in a nutshell, is we're trying to create this immersive environment, like a game world, where you can kind of peel away the layers of yourself, your identity, your beliefs, the things that motivate you, and kind of put on a new set of skin and clothes. So you're role-playing conversations through the eyes of different characters, and they're being inflected with different ideologies. Topics are being mutated through the play of this game. It's roughly based on, the structure mechanics are roughly based on Magic the Gathering, the card deck roleplay game, which some of you might know. And if you don't, it's basically just a card deck version of Dungeons and Dragons, the old school roleplay stuff. So if you see some similarities to those games, that's why. But instead of in Magic, you summon beasts and they fight to the death in the arena. These are instead, we're making ambassadors or emissaries for discourse. You've got like somebody riding into a conversation on a horse to have a conversation, have a discussion rather than to wield a sword. So by doing this, you can kind of create bizarre and counterfactual conversations in areas of discursive space that you probably wouldn't have any business going to as yourself in a normal conversation. So you can actually have quite counterfactual and bizarre lines of thought that might not emerge otherwise. And the game has been in process for years. We actually had it in prototype for years. There was an exhibition about a year ago in Geneva on art and games, the Seashore of Endless Worlds, and they somehow found out about our card deck. It wasn't public, and asked us to finish it so it could go in the exhibition. And so that's what we did, and lots of good things in there. I think there will be a follow-up exhibition next year in Geneva as well. We then, this year, made a different version of the deck. We expanded the deck. So we've now got, as you can probably see, if you look at the table near me, 50 of these kind of tarot-looking oracle cards. And we use them now as a different kind of deck to play, not instead this full kind of role-play game, but instead to do something that subverts the form of traditional structured discourse. Things like panel discussions. We're actually going to try that out today, where we use the card deck as a stochastic moderator. And the first time we tried this was quite recently, last month, in a music festival in Poland. And we promised it would be chaotic, and it was. The theme of the festival was noise, so they were okay with that. All right, so here's the start of this project. When we were running the salon, we were making these new topics and researching them, then discussing them in these events. And we also started making a magic card, just one, to go with the topic. And then we started making more. And then all of a sudden there were 60 of them. And somebody said, hey, you could print these. And then we looked at the intellectual property situation of Wizards of the Coast, the company that makes magic. And we thought, hell no, we're not printing these. So then the idea to make our own cards came about. This is the first version of first prototype version of the card deck. And we already started using the idea of the characters, the role play, the changing of the parameters of the discussion. And then start to develop some more. And this is now like 2-3 years later. This was the last prototype version. And then this is the designs of the version that you're looking at now, where you're with an Italian artist called Twee Whistler, hand drew a lot of the, let me show you a better picture. Where's a better picture? I don't have a better picture. When we look at the cards, you'll see there's lots of hand-drawn detail on them that Twee Whistler made. The images were generated, very often seeded by antiquated images of various kinds. The font is a custom typeface by Singaporean artist Darius Au. And a few of the 0x Salon residents worked on this project, including Christopher de Gautet and Alessandro Longo. So quite a big team of people that worked on this stuff. We spent years kind of tweaking the rules of the game, actually trying to keep it simple. Because very often when you play a game for the sake of playing a game, the game is quite complicated because it wants to demand your whole attention, so you have this experience of play. In this case, we're trying to make a minimal ludic environment, play environment, but that gets out of the way of the conversation that the cards facilitate. So it's kind of a interesting design space for games because you're kind of trying to under-design the game or kind of anti-design it. All right, then we made more cards. You can see actually the finished examples of this card type on the table now. These are like oracle cards, which change the topic that we're discussing. And then we just play tested a lot for years, actually. And I think that's about it. I mean, some people could argue that this isn't even a game. Because if you're a purist in terms of the structure and function of games, there should be some kind of winning condition. There should be some kind of competitive condition. There should be some kind of ending condition. But I don't even think we really have those here. I played this game with a few friends in Berlin, and they demanded a competitive element. They can add it. That's the beauty of it, actually. You have kind of two layers of game design with these kinds of card games. You have the diegetic ones, you could say, where to change the rules would require you to change the cards. But you also have like a non-diegetic layer where you can mess around with the way you use the deck without needing to change the cards. In many ways, we think about the many ways we use playing cards or tarot and oracle cards in different contexts, in different ways, as a testament to that kind of malleability. So I think that's actually one of the most interesting things about the card deck itself. Yeah, that's it. So I think now we should gather at the front and play a little exemplification of the games. We're going to do the simple deck just with the tarot cards. And we're going to pick a topic, very general topic, which we haven't picked yet. And then as we draw the cards, the identity of the card and what the ideas are contained within it will give us a question that we're going to discuss on the panel. So it will be a bit chaotic, but I hope you're okay with that. So the idea with this, what we're going to do now, is it's kind of, I want to show you a little bit how we can change the structure of a panel discussion. So for this one, I suggested that like Nawin, Shanhuan and Sarah engage in a conversation with me. If anyone else really wants to join in, they can. We will all play the full card game later. I just thought this was a nice way to demonstrate some of the possibility of it. So I think the topic is time. Okay? All right.
You're the game master.
Okay. All right. No, I mean the card deck is the game. I'm disempowered in this context. So
Can I feel?
yes, yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'm fine with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's being documented as well. Yeah, it's fine for me. Yes, yes. Okay. Shall we draw a card? The card is class ceiling. This is a play on words with the idea of the glass ceiling. It's a 20th century concept around the inconsistencies between the respect and the pay that different genders get in the workplace. The idea that women could not rise above a certain level in traditional employment because of this invisible barrier, the glass ceiling. But here it says class, not glass. So it's probably more about the material conditions, or maybe even about how time and power are related through capitalist production. Perhaps.
Yeah, what that makes me think of is the idea that like for different classes, an hour doesn't mean the same thing. Because like for instance, if you have the wealth to be able to afford services, your 1 hour doing laundry is not necessary. Whereas someone who doesn't have the money to do that in a lower class would be spending, like the 15 minutes walking to the laundromat and then sitting at the laundromat for 2 hours.
So the relationship of time to money through productivity.
Yeah, and not even necessarily just money, but like the relationship of like accumulated wealth and capital, affording people with more means, more time to do non-necessary things for survival.
Okay. For me, I have like think about time with I have think about it for a while, like how actually. So I study a lot about like how human hallucinate and like how like media illusion us, like how capacity of human brain perceive like various frame rate, and time would be a big thing for me to look at because I interest in history and how people use history, and actually how those concept of time work beneath those history that we use, kind of, yeah. So with this class like topic, I really choose like to think about like how those little detail are flickering beneath, and need time to think a little. Yeah.
We always need time.
I'm thinking two things. One is just that the original meaning of the glass ceiling, as you explained it, is also a class ceiling because it has to do with rising inside a traditional organization. Often that comes with a bigger salary. And I'm thinking additionally about something that what you said. I'm thinking about unwaged domestic labor, which supports a lot of high-powered people who might brag about working 100 hours a week, but they have an unpaid servant who is their wife.
Can I ask, like, what does that glass ceiling come from? Where does that like metaphor come from? Do you guys know it?
I think feel free to add more, but I think it's just the idea that there's this invisible barrier to certain kinds of people rising too far in Western society, because the Western society was traditionally architected around networks of white men. So like the other is prevented from progressing, making their way in the world because of this invisible.
So on that time there are no glass ceiling. I mean, it's not a popular architecture style. Kind of.
Oh,
Okay.
Because it's fragile.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's dangerous and it's fragile. And if you throw a stone, you can break it. The other thing this card makes me think of, if we talk about class in terms of productivity, we have like the capitalist class. And let's think about it in like industrial terms. People that control the means of production. They have the factory. And when the Industrial Revolution was happening in the UK, not all the workers had clocks. It was very rare that you would have an accurate made-to-measure time yourself. But the capitalists that run the factory have a clock. Their clock determines when you start working and when you finish working. So it determines your productivity. And there was many examples of the clocks being manipulated for the advantage of the capitalist producer to the disadvantage of the worker. So there's always a relationship between productivity and power through who gets to decide how we measure the time of productivity.
And of course, ways that the construction of time as we experience it was a necessary precondition of industrial production. We almost had to invent the clock to invent the factory.
Yeah, and it's one of the big drives of capital, especially when it mixes with technology, is to find ever more like optimal ways of producing, not only in terms of the outputs, the finished products of the capitalist process, but also in terms of the accuracy of the measurement of the time as well.
Can I share more a little?
Yeah.
So I think about like, because I just have a baby, 2 years old, but at the time that my wife carrying the pregnancy, so they are one worker in my cousin factory also like carrying, and one of my boss that are like more richer and like more class than me, like, so we three carrying a pregnant, and in Thailand, the father didn't have only like 2 weeks for the day off.
Paternity leave.
Yeah. But I think everyone, like, we three all know each other and we're trying to negotiate. And then the thing that we like facing too is some kind of pregnancy calendar, so it's kind of unique calendar. I think it used with I don't know how to say it properly. Menstruation, calendar. Those times that we sing together by three, like, by three people, quite. The scenario that I think about.
Biological time.
Yeah.
Shall we pick another card? Okay. Astroturfing. So astroturf is the artificial grass, the plastic grass that you see actually see it everywhere. Here, everywhere.
Is it possible to zoom in more because it's not really?
In the concept of discourse and debate and polities.
เอาการขึ้น ยกขึ้นให้กล้องดูได้ครับ
Or maybe we turn them around as well.
hold it and put it closer to the camera so
You want
just
to?
to see the words. Yeah. So others.
How's this?
Oh, okay. Like YouTuber, skincare YouTuber.
So astroturfing in the like discursive context, or even like politics, is where we kind of manufacture things to make them look real, but they're completely fake. And so, for example, political lobbyists will manufacture an audience or a crowd or an event that might be completely fake. So this is the idea of insincere artificiality, let's say. So, in the concept of time, okay, when have you been gaslit by a clock? I feel like maybe we talk about time zones here. The way that we measure time as humans in countries on Earth is different than the way the sun, the moon, and the stars measure time. So maybe there's something there.
Yeah, I mean, I think if like we think about astroturfing as like a corollary to grassroots, right? Like when we talk about grassroots organizing, it's like coming from below up, whereas astroturfing is like this fake one. So what is the like sense of time that is produced by people before it was like imposed upon us? And it's just like your biological clock, your circadian rhythm, and the like collective entanglement of all of the people you're in community with, sort of deciding how time is measured. So I don't know, like, what happens when then it shifts to being like the bell ringing 3 o'clock? That means it's time to go eat food or something. That's I don't know.
I was also wondering about, if we go back to time zones, I just remembered that all of mainland China has a single time zone. Everything is on the same time zone. It's massive. It's even bigger than Central European time, which is also massive. They will have the same time zone for like, alignment through time, for other kinds of alignment, presumably. But traditionally, Xinjiang, the Uyghur region, had a different time zone, which was 2 hours apart. And so it's kind of a political decision, in a way, which time zone you quote, or which you measure and which you use. So I also wonder about things like that.
Are there people like playing the role of astroturfing, like declaring, oh, this is what time it is, as a way of like imposing a new regime of time onto people?
I suppose that's what the state does with and the time zone system and the meridian system. Maybe the ultimate astroturf was the British Empire jerry-rigging the system of time zones to have the prime meridian go through London, so time is kind of calibrated.
I mean, when we were talking about the early factory industrialist example, that feels like an astroturfing of time. And, you know, also the invention of the clock to move away from sort of the natural biological rhythms of farming pre-industrialization as maybe an astroturfing of time.
For me, think of, because a lot of people seem to, like gardeners seem to use astro, like yesterday going to the temple for the Lord Gautong, I don't know if you do it, that the temple trying to use the astroturf everywhere. But astroturf is like day and night go on, it's still green and like that. Right? But I think I have used it and it's a best home for cockroach. So like
Cockroach.
Yeah, actually how it how it manufactured and how little hole they have. Like if you turn around, if you put an astro in the sunlight and you turn around after, it's gonna be like a full house of cockroach.
It's actually incredible. So if you engage in astroturfing, you get a den full of cockroaches.
yeah.
I mean, also thinking about astroturfing, like it hides the seasonality, right? So if we're talking about a sort of destruction of one sense of time, like walking by the same patch of grass and it's always green, then you lose a sense of like season.
All right. Next card. We should try to get through some cards, I think. Okay. Oh yeah. Oblivion, laugh, love. So we all, I mean, many of us are probably kind of familiar with this concept of live, laugh, love. This kind of like toxic positivity, imagining this like perfect future. But what if we replace the first word with oblivion, the void, or the quest for nothing? So I suppose if we were going to try to connect this to time, what about the end of a regime of time, or the decline of it? I'm wondering about alternative calendar systems. So isn't it the year 2584 in Thailand, or something like this, right? So maybe this is an interesting thing for us to think about. As technology makes things more global, and we live these more networked lives, do these kind of non-Western ways of keeping time, do they become less important in the Thai life? I don't know.
Can I ask what is oblivion mean?
Ah,
For me, it's a really aesthetic word.
Yeah, oblivion is kind of like the void, the nothing. Yeah. So I'm thinking about the decline, or the end of time systems. Yeah. So I wonder about the Thai,
Because
the Buddhist timekeeping systems. Do we use them less now than we used to in the past?
which you mean?
Like the Buddhist time system.
Or the Buddhist.
Yeah, for example.
So we have it. So for the standard of the year, we use like the Buddhist year. Yeah, and actually there are some aesthetic and mythical kind of essence that come with like the Buddha years. We really believe that the year that Buddha died coming with like some yellow aura, something like that. But for this top share from you about the context of time. For we live near the equator, so we every time and every day and night in the whole year are the same. So we seem really static, and we like the culture really didn't unique the season. The season are the same kind of with the weather as well. So when we grow up, we know that okay, there are some Europe country or Europe city that half a day only like 1 hour or something like that. So it, for me, it like a little share about this first.
It's actually very interesting coming here because I live in Germany. Wasim has also lived for some time, where it's pretty far north, and so it changes a lot in winter and summer. and I feel like the sun is rising and setting at the wrong times. It's like it's so hot. The sun should be setting at 11 p.m. because that's what it does in Berlin when it's this hot. This is like my biological felt feeling of time, not caught up with my new surroundings.
Also, the place comes to life at night. Yeah, like there's a very active, like nocturnal energy of these places, and it makes a lot of sense.
The city is very beautifully lit. Like a lot of the streets have really beautiful lights, and I wonder if you think that the lights in the streets are sort of people have put them up more and more because the sunset's kind of early. I feel like we have less. The sunset's really late, so we don't have lights in the streets as much.
All the shops like close after 6 p.m. like in Europe.
Often, yeah.
There's nothing to do much outside.
Still in Germany, everything is closed on Sunday. Really, everything. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah.
I feel like if there's like this period of time, then there's no history, there's no story and background of our beings. So we're like free and we can just get out.
Yeah, when the card first turned over, I thought something a little bit like that. I thought maybe it's like remembering death and impermanence, and like the best thing to do is to experience pleasure and happiness in the moment. Possibly nihilistic, but maybe also.
I mean, there's like an image that came to mind for me of like how like moths and so many bugs go to lights at night and die because they think it's like they get disoriented because they're tracking the position of the sun to know where they are, and then there's a light that looks like the sun to them or the moon, and they get lost. And I feel like maybe there's something in that. It's like the abandonment of time.
Also that.
Also astrophysics.
The astroturf for the moths.
Yeah. Okay, next card. Appeal to authority.
Are they appealing to the moon?
I mean, in this picture, they're appealing to the moon. That's the authority that they've found.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess we're back to like time and power. Maybe we take this in the colonial direction, which we I think gestured at earlier. So one of the things that a number of great European powers did was they exported their ways of living and being across the world, was to impose their logics of time as well. So I'm thinking in particular, I don't know that much of what happened like with Indochine in this area. I imagine the French imposed their kind of temporal logics. But a very good example is what the British Empire did in India, where they basically built clock towers in every town. And they kind of forced people to switch away from local forms of time to kind of a nationally determined time system for things like, well, I mean, they said it was for things like railroad timetables, the railway timetables, for example. You kind of need some universal system of time. But it was also used as a mechanism of power. So these big clock towers that got built everywhere that tell you what the time is. You don't have there's no dialogue with this enormous tower. And so I wonder if it's around the power that systems of time have over us.
This is making me think about something that I was told recently by Jordy. In Europe and prior to the widespread use of the clock as we know it, the timekeeping for a village would be done by the church, and they would ring a bell, and then everyone would hear the bell. It was very loud and know what time it was. But the bell itself is a huge piece of metal, which is very valuable. And in times of war, the bell would be taken down and melted into a cannon And then when the war is over, it would be recast again into a bell. So the timekeeping device is literally becoming a weapon and then returning to being a clock.
In some places, cannons are still used to mark time. Like if you go to the fort in Valletta in Malta, which is the last place the Crusaders hung out in Europe, they do a gun salute at noon every day. And if you're on a ship, hundreds of years ago, that might be your clock, like your way to tell what the time is on dry land.
Other thing to share about like the clock tower in Thai, like because we have one idiom that are far from noon guns. So actually, I think far, like your home is farther from a noon gun. So there are towers that like government people will shoot, and you will hear the gun noise, and that are noon kind of. Yeah. So I think that concept of urban and clock is quite like with different pace from like European. And one thing that I want to share about this topic is the one king that we have called Rama IV, because Thailand are like I still doubt about its geography on the world, because we are only country that are no like colonized, but we got colonized in different way, not that like that way. So Rama IV is the one that got pressure by how to deal with the foreigners. So he come up with a lot of campaigns, some like dig up the old, mocking up the old evidence that we are like a long city. And the thing that he continued from that, like propaganda to talk to like the foreigners. He invented the Thai Times, but he invented with the how to say it, with the black mythic way kind of, yeah. So right now he do a lot of things. I'm like, if you go around the tourist place, there are sun pier and moon pier, and how the Sanam Luang, the big garden on the monarch place, kind of it how to oval actually, yeah. And right now we have two city pillar. So he make one for the black mythic, and I can share with you guys after.
Yeah, interesting.
But he failed actually, I think. So after that, Rama V continue and drag in the universal time.
That's interesting. I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, just also, by the way, when there was an international conference to determine where the prime meridian, where we would put all the time zones through, and when the British won the vote, the French didn't accept. There was I guess, like imperial pride around this. And so for a while, Paris had its own mean time, offset. Well, I think it's like less than a minute or something like this. So it is also arbitrary. And now, the tallest clock tower in the world is the Burj Al Sa'a in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia. Some people think, now that they've got the biggest tower, they should have the prime meridian. I don't know if it works like that. Next card. Okay. Profit motives. This old one. Okay, so the notion of prophecy is to bring something from the future and relay it through the present. And this is in itself an act of the manipulation of time, the gaming of time. So what's the question then? What prophecies of time are yet to be foretold?
It's kind of making me think of algorithmic trading and prediction markets.
I mean, kind of tying to the last thing, there's this like power that you get from being able to tell people like, this is when sunrise will be, or this is when the train will arrive. And like it's maybe
The oracle.
The oracle, which is also just like a contract of like, we set up a system to work this way. But I think it's something where like there's, depending where you are positioned in the power system, like you either have the ability to like say something that becomes true, or else you're just like receiving the information and like acting accordingly.
It sounds like profit motive.
I don't know too silly, but I think about like procrastinate motive, but like what is actually opposite from procrastinate kind of, but it's gonna be like fun.
To act, maybe, yeah. Okay. Then the job of the prophet, if nothing else, is to bring the faithful to the promised land. So, what is the promised land for exploring time? Like, what do you want from time? What can time? If we could change time, what would you want from it?
Slow it down a little.
Sure. So let me talk about maybe the Greek concepts of time, just real quick.
Okay.
So the Greeks had two different names for time. There's chronos, which is the kind of the time of the clock, the linear time of attention. And there was also this concept of kairos, this kind of non-linear or circular time, the time of opportunity. This maybe speaks to these ideas when we think about time passing quickly when we have fun, or time passing slowly when we want it to pass quickly. So we have this kind of, the time is linear and it's also slipping in strange ways. And so, even as far back as ancient Greece, we've had these different concepts of time. And I suppose we could also maybe relate those to our conscious attention and then what slides through in the background.
Can I interrupt with a completely asinine suggestion, which is there's a building called the Kronos office building, 650 meters away from here, which features the following sculpture in the, I don't have real focus, but yeah. So, if you like to visit.
I feel like, this guy is quite like Reaper coded. So it might be the end of your time. Visit that guy.
My time improvement proposal for today is I feel like morning people are unfairly preferentially treated. And I think that evening times are equally valuable for work or play.
There should be worms for late birds as well.
Yes.
All right, next card.
What you need from time? I mean, if you can change, can I ask?
Me?
Yeah.
I want more different kinds of time. Because most of the kinds of time that we've had since we crawled out of the soup and learned how to use tools and all of this are still relying on the logics of the sun, the moon, and the stars. But now it seems like there are new forms of time emerging. These ones, some of them are mediated by technology. But I wonder if we can imagine new forms of time that exist outside the machining, that come from or through nature, imagined through nature, inspired by nature. I will say a bit more about these new forms of time next Friday afternoon.
Okay. Interesting.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it sounds like if different from the previous one, the time, the clock comes from the authority, then the motive, if relates to the second definition of the Greek time, I felt there could be more opportunity or agency from the grassroots to make time or make different life.
Yeah, think about like there's people who talk about like there's a term that's called like CPT, like colored people time, which is like people in the US or in other like white dominated societies who like operate on it like without respecting the clock in the same way. And there's this idea of like, you know, instead of setting the time around like, oh, we're gonna meet at this number of time, it's just like we're all gonna show up when we show up. We'll say a number, but it doesn't really matter. Or we should say like, we'll meet after dinner, and we don't have to know what time that is. But it's just once people have shown up, then that's how you mark the time of like when we're together.
So it's sticky even without being precise. Yeah. I also just remembered the example of Paris revolutionary time. So in the years after the French Revolution, there was a proposal for a decimal-based time, like on powers of 10 timekeeping system. So not this like 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, but rather we use base 10, tens, hundreds, thousands, and so on. And Swatch, the watch manufacturer, still keeps this time. They still maintain this digital decimal clock. I think you can still get a watch. You used to be able to get a watch, which reads your time in this decimal. Reimagining of the solar time that we use. Okay, next card. Oils well that ends well. So this is a Shakespeare reference, among other things. It was a Shakespeare play called All's Well That Ends Well. That's oil, and it looks like a big messy swamp of extraction and capitalist productivity. So, where should we go with this card? For the question of time. Do we want to talk about the end of time? Do we want to talk about the climate and time?
I mean, I think, yeah, there's like an interesting thing with like fossil fuel has made the sort of globalization and industrialization of time possible in a way as well. Right, like thinking about if the train schedule thing is like part of it, and like factories like coal. And there's this idea, I think, of like we're excavating the past and burning it to make the present possible. I just wonder what that means in terms of like we're collapsing like millions of years of history into the present moment, which is like physically accelerating our collapse and maybe like return to some state of carbon equilibrium.
I think we're also taking on a kind of debt to the future.
Also, like animals that have like longest time in the Earth is a fossil. Like a fossil fuel has the longest time on the Earth. So we just burn it
straight away, as quickly as possible. Yeah. So we are cheating the future to pay for the present.
Is also like the thermodynamics of like heating up the Earth. Does that mean because like molecules are moving faster, the time like relatively is like how does that work with relativity?
Well, I think about thermodynamic time because we can then relate, like in a kind of cosmic sense, we can relate the passage of time to the increase of disorder. So, like if things are literally heating up, then we are, in a sense, speeding up time, we're accelerating time, because the movement towards disorder is itself accelerated. Good news.
I heard a quote from my friend yesterday who came to a realization time is entropy.
Yes. Thermodynamicists figured that out. But we also have the information theoretic concept of entropy by Shannon in terms of noise in the signal. And even though they're not like related at the conceptual level, it feels like things get noisier as we slide down this slippery slope.
I think we exist in a moment in time where we are in a swirl between high and low entropy states. And if you go through space and measure entropy at each point of time, in each point of space, I think we're in a weird situation where the measurement of the entropy is itself has high entropy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Yes, measurement is difficult and flawed. And when you pick a thing, actually have a card for this. I'll just find the card so we can continue the set of words right there. That's the card. Good cards, flaw. Yet when we pick things to measure, and we think those are the most important things, then very often the world or us or nature finds a way to reduce the meaningfulness of that particular measure. So the Goodhart's law, which this card is derived from, is from economics. And simply put, when a measure becomes a metric, it ceases to be a good measure. So if you think about things like the concentration of carbon dioxide in the air, or the temperature of the oceans, or the GDP of a country per capita, these are these kind of big numbers that we rely on and trust. But when there's just one big number that we rely on, everybody is there trying to get that number to look really good, possibly at the expense of everything else. So there's a question of like what we can, what is observable, what can we measure, and then we optimize for that. So that's why you see these insane metrics from governments, and they say like, wow, our biodiversity is up 400%, and then you look at the thing and the place is burning and being submerged by floods and extreme weather.
in connection to the previous card, one of the most insane situations in terms of like climate action and burning coal and things like this, I find is actually in Berlin, where the government said they're gonna do adhere to some number in the future, like in 10 years, and it caused a situation where all the coal burning accelerated, and now the Green Party is basically trying to burn all the coal as quickly as possible.
Yeah, burn all the coal and export all the weapons as quickly as possible. That's the Green.
Well, they have still have some time to do that.
German Green Party. Yes.
Do you think I've heard this theory of other universes maybe moving towards entropy? It's also just everything evolves towards complexity. And do you think that's a function of a Goodhart's law to think of complexity as noise or randomness?
I think complexity might be the byproduct of the drive to reduce entropy. So larger organisms have more ability through their surfaces and their membranes to mitigate. Think of yourself. We have this. It's all chaos outside our bodies, with our skin and our skeletal structures and all the rest of it. Manage to find a way that we can exchange with the environment, but we don't have to. We are relatively organised bags of meat and water, and the outside is relatively disorganised bunch of stuff. So I think that might be kind of one of the ways that we can orient the drives of life. Yeah.
So there's about entropy, there's equilibrium, a balance, the stable states. So I read about the 2024 Nobel Prize of the physics. It's a machine learning model that's how do you know the training is done? It's when there's stable equilibrium. So that's how everything is related. How the machine learns.
Yeah. We don't always have equilibrium situation though. In the fullness of time, if you leave a closed system for long enough, it will reach the equilibrium. But we don't always have the luxury of the time to reach the equilibrium. Another card? Okay. Yeah. I think maybe one or two more cards. Then we can play it. Okay. The chainmail gaze. Special card. Yes. Special card.
Did you manipulate the deck?
It manipulates me. You should have seen the first card we drew in Unsound. I was shocked. Absolutely shocked. Okay, so the chainmail gaze. You've probably heard of the male gaze. The disadvantages and externalities that come from masculine designs. But what about the chainmail gaze? So chainmail is the medieval armour that warriors would wear in the West as they would look for lands to conquer. So maybe in this context, we can talk about time as a weapon, like the offensive nature of time, or how time can be used as a tool of the self. Say again? People forget. Yeah. Yeah.
Time is actually a weapon.
Say again?
Time is actual weapon. It's actual weapon.
Weapon.
Yeah.
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 Like when people forgot it's doing
Yeah, you can deny people agency through time with things like jails and carceral logic. You can deny them the opportunity to have sovereignty over the way that they keep their time, measure their time. Can make their lives shorter by denying them socioeconomic status, healthcare, things like that.
If you think of military operations or like what's called or like working in Navy and stuff like that, you need to keep track of time. You allocate shifts and you have mechanisms to actually do that. And I was really amazed by like this story I was told at some point that I think like 15th century, 16th century or something, the advent of like more accurate timing devices, people on like ships were like seeing time measuring devices as like adversary, because this was something that actually was keeping them from ship to the ship. And there was like riots and like where people like crashed the like clocks and stuff. Like
Nice. Yes, I heard about the smash of the clocks. Yeah.
You need the clocks for the sextants to work.
Huh?
Clock for the sextants to work.
To do for what?
For the sextants to work.
For the next one?
Sextants.
For navigation.
Yeah.
Maybe this is an inversion of the prompt, but also part of the Crusades is there something about like bringing about a certain time, like by reclaiming a certain like territory to like that, bring what's like.
It's about returning to a way things were before a different mode of time appeared with Islam, I suppose. Yeah.
I think there are in some religious ontologies like preconditions about X or Y city has to be held by X or Y power before the
Thing happens.
the
What's that called?
desired paradise,
Eschatology.
the Messiah arriving, whatever.
Temporal eschatologies. Yeah. I think we should wrap this a little bit now, and then we take a break, and then we can sit around and play the card game itself. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful book on this topic.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Thank you. So the game works well with up to 5 players. What's nice about the card deck, as I mentioned earlier, is that we keep finding new ways to play the game with the cards. So I was doing something in Singapore last weekend. And it was like a lecture first and then a game session second. And the lecture went way too long. So in the end we played a game that was much faster than normal. Almost like the difference between speed chess and normal chess. It was really chaotic, but it was super fun. Yeah. So I was like always interested to figure out new ways to use the card. Yeah. Do you want to play, Jean-Marc?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, then we have 5 players. Would you like to play as well, Cecilia? Yeah, we should. Yes, we should. Yeah. Okay. Game 6. Actually, it's more than I ever played with before. Very interesting.
I can sit out and just watch.
Or we can make teams. What about we make 2 teams of 3?
Oh,
Are you okay with this? Because then you just kind of, so as the game goes, you'll get more characters. And then one of you just chooses either which characters you are, or which character you'd like to be each time the conversation goes around. I think it's fun. Let's try it. You know, experiment is always good. So we start.
So we're 3 teams.
Yeah, you and Davian, Julio, Yang and Celia, and Sarah and Shanghai.
So it's 3 teams, not
Three teams. 3 teams of 2 each. Yes, exactly. Yeah, you choose the team. So then we start to deal you like a set of cards. Now, normally when you would play the game, you would keep the cards secret, but because we're learning the game, we just put them face up on the table.
But we have to like have a conversation before play or something.
Yeah, so like, I'll show you how the turn works. Yeah. Basically, you will have each characters on the table.
But when you discuss, you
Yeah.
expose your card. No?
Well, the creatures will be on the table.
Ah, I see.
I'll deal some cards and then hopefully you'll see.
Can I see?
So now we'll just deal like each of the 3 teams, some cards, and then hopefully you each get some characters. Would be nice if you do. Not so many characters here. Yes, I'm noticing. Then I want that. Okay. Characters. Then we can do one more card. I want to turn another character for you. Okay, so each have 7 cards. And there's several types of cards. Oh, we were asked to speak up for the mic when we speak. So the first kind of card is this one with the kind of the G in the corner, and it has like a figure. This is a character. So the idea is that these are your ambassadors for the conversation in the deck, and they're all quite weird. So I can see you guys have 2, so we can just put them here, and they're in play. Yeah, and this card is kind of like in your hand. We have these 2, you're in play. And you have, was this your one? Yes. You have these 2 characters in play. So the way you could do it, because you're a team of 2 people, could be that one of you says, oh, I am Hildegard von Bingo, and the other person says, I am the Kafkaesque bureaucrat. Or you can decide whenever, you can kind of tag team. So whenever the conversation comes around, you can be like, okay, I'm speaking is on behalf of deep fake Chopra, and they're doing X, Y, and Z. The other thing to say is a lot of the cards have a story from like the worlds that we've made with the 0x Salon from previous projects. So you probably won't have so much context. You won't know who these characters are. But as we go around, I can give you a little bit of an explanation of where they came from, what kinds of things they might be interested in. So the first thing, actually we should have done this before we dealt the cards, is to decide what the topic of the conversation is. So is there something that you guys want to talk about, as general as possible, really? Something relatable and something general.
Let's talk about love.
Love. Okay. We'll talk about love. Well, like, we'll see if we're still talking about love in 5 or 10 minutes. Start off by talking about love.
Okay.
Now, we used to do the thing where we'd roll the dice to see who goes first, but actually I lost my dice yesterday at the party. So, okay, Sarah has dice.
It's an app.
Digital dice.
Digital dice.
Anyone want some tea?
Yes, please.
I'm gonna say we should roll a d12,
Sure.
and I've gotten 5
Okay.
for our team.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's you, Sarah. You're first.
What? Oh, I thought.
I just counted 5 for round.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, our team is first. Okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So on your turn, you can play some cards, and then you can start a conversation.
Okay.
So the kinds of cards you've got a character here, which you can bring into play. You've got a character here you can bring into play. You've got the card with the A on it, which is kind of like a spell, which changes the rules of the game. You have to read what it says in terms of what it does.
Okay.
This one makes the conversation shorter, for example.
Okay.
And then these cards, which look the ones that we used before in the Tarot Oracle deck, these ones are changing the topic.
Okay.
As they kind of did in the panel discussion. So, would you like some context of the characters that you've got? Maybe I'll do that first. So here, Deepfake Chopra was a contestant in a game show in a radio play we made about technology governance. It's based on the kind of mystic, grifter, American guy Deepak Chopra, who is always looking for ways to make money out of spiritual topics, whatever they are. But deepfake suggests that this person is a artificial intelligence. So it's not somebody real. It's not a legitimate person. It's a.
Is it Chopra? Is it like existing mythological thing? Because I don't know. I'm not.
Oh, Deepak Chopra is just kind of like an influencer.
Yeah, but Chopra. What is Chopra?
Oh, that was his name. Deepak Chopra was the name of this influencer.
His last name.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chopra was his name. The common South Asian name.
Okay.
The janitorial dissimulation, well, in the salon we talk about the janitor as being the kind of unseen force that tidies this messy room of thoughts and keeps things together. So the janitor is a grounding figure, but the etymology of janitor comes from Janus, the gatekeeper, the two-faced god. So perhaps the humble janitor also holds real power. The Kafkaesque bureaucrat, well, in the works of Kafka, we see these kind of unthinking, unseeing machines, which the humans have to kind of bend to their will. And so the Kafkaesque bureaucrat is the unthinking, unfeeling character that would be operating such a machine. Hildegard von Bingo. Well, there was a famous mystic, medieval mystic, female mystic called Hildegard von Bingen, who would commune with spirits, write music and poetry and make art. But now it's bingo. So this person is interested in gambling, in probabilities, in numbers.
This Kafkaesque bureaucrat
Yeah.
looks like put in by intentionally.
It looks like
Put in intentionally.
not intentionally in this circumstance, but some of them do have resemblances which are more intentional. Okay, the algae hipster. It's a very common figure in large Western cities. It's somebody that wants to appropriate the logics and the aesthetics of nature for their own selfish ends. J.G. Ballodriard. Well, this is a mixture of the dystopian English fiction author J.G. Ballard, who wrote things like Crash, High Rise, The Atrocity Exhibition, who sets up stories in social circumstances and watches them collapse and fall apart. And Baudrillard, the famous philosopher of simulation, looking at where the fake representations of the real become what we have left. Okay, those are some of your characters. Sarah and Chamhan. First.
How do these numbers?
Well, okay, so the numbers, initially we used them as a way to test the skill of the person engaging in the conversation. Actually, we're going to ignore the numbers because it made it more complicated. So you don't have to worry about that. You could, if you want, notice that the algae hipster is very confident, for example. So then they might be very confident when they speak. Okay, so we are talking about love. You can also then play these cards if you want to change, like yes, or like specify or twist it. Maybe we just start off with love as it is.
Maybe you can start.
You can also bring in, yeah.
So do you have to speak as a character?
Yes, you can also bring Emmanuel Quant into play. Yes, if you want to. Yeah.
So, as Emmanuel Quant, I don't believe in love. I make my relationship decisions the same way I make my financial ones, which is pragmatically constructed by a careful analysis of risk to best optimize my long-term outcomes.
Especially the financial ones.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to disagree or challenge this sanitized and unemotional take on love?
speaking in the
Yeah.
character also.
Yeah. Yeah, what's love to a janitor?
Do we? There's no like. Are we going to?
Well, we're kind of, there are turns in the game, but now when we have the conversations, we just converse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the janitor, I'm talking about on behalf of janitor. And janitor says that love is a topic that became almost a taboo in the political sense, and thinks that love is the most radical thing you can do.
Sweeping statement. Janitor. What about the bureaucrat or the mystic? Wonder if they have any thoughts about.
Yeah, I can think of like love as a mechanics of like increase the populations, like in terms of like when the population grows, they more people pay tax and like the curve can keep going.
How the state perceives love, perhaps. You can also then like interject on behalf of your other characters.
As the algae hipster, I think it's, everything that we do is about love, and we really need to be making more apps that help us find our love,
Love 2.0. All right, we can wrap the turn there, and then we'll go clockwise. Now it's you guys. So then you get another card, ideology card. So you could play that on a character to turn them into a statistical wizard or believer. This card here, imaginary country, it's about like desires for a place, for placemaking, for a home, whether that's in a pluralistic sense or in a dominatory sense.
I would like to actually talk about that. That sounds interesting.
So we should come up with another statement on the same topic, or what's the goal on this turn?
Not accept the jokes.
Maybe we need to twist the
We
topic.
could change the topic.
We should twist the topic then. Yeah.
What's the goal of the turn?
Basically, you have the chance to start the conversation after you've changed the field of play. So you can play ideology cards to change the characters' views. You can just play these cards to change the topic. So I think actually this one might be quite nice for this conversation.
Can you explain what?
Yes. So this card is called for the Dante's Inferno. Dante's Inferno. So Dante's Inferno is the famous story within which is this concept of like multi-layered kind of descent into the abyss. Entfernung is a German word that means distance. So perhaps Dante's Entfernung is the distance between an idea or an action and its response or its consequences. So if we're talking about love, perhaps we talk about like the acts of love, the gestures and the declarations, and the intentions of love, and then how they are reflected or reciprocated or otherwise. I look at some of these characters and I don't know how happy their love lives are. It's a bit hard for me to tell.
Can we ask a question about our card, which is
Yes.
bike shedding? What is it?
Bike shedding is a term that comes out of mostly computer science, which is it's a pejorative term, it's a criticism. When people get stuck arguing over minor details, unimportant details, such as the colour of the bike shed. So what's more important is the big thing, but instead we're arguing over little things.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, can I mix the...
This is global. It affects everyone. So I put it here. Yeah.
Okay.
This is Inferno. It's in play. Like this.
Okay. So I activate this card.
Yeah. Now we're looking for the slip between the call and the response, of action and its consequence.
So I speak as the janitorial dissimulation. To say that making love is not just the act of having sex, but it's a plural way in which we can relate to each other. So how can we make love in different ways? And yeah, what is the response at different levels of reality?
Any of the characters have some ideas about different ways we can imagine love?
As the
Hildegard von Bingo?
Hildegard von Bingo would agree or also expand love and money also, like the more the merrier, and once you invest in one portion of the love, it could produce more as long as you have the desire for. So yeah.
I feel like the Immanuel Quant might wonder about how best to use capital allocation in order to optimize the quantity of love being produced.
I feel like as J.G. Baudrillard, I am interested in these expanded definitions of love, and I'm interested in the love that might form between a human and a machine, or a human and an algorithm, or perhaps a human and an ideology.
As a response from genitorial dissimulation, again, I would say that some domains and like entities in my life, I relate to as partners. Sometimes they are strange, and I have love-hate relationship with them, and I cannot get away from them. Sometimes I cannot stop thinking about them, and it can be not a human, it can be a community, it can be a domain of knowledge, it can be technology, or a ritual, or music, or anything. What are these cards for?
What?
What are these cards for?
Oh, they changed the rules of the game, the spells. So if you look, it says here, target player draws cards, move all characters to the graveyard. So they kind of changed, they affect the field of play. Yeah.
Can I use that? This one?
Yeah.
Activate?
Okay, nice. Teleological termination point. Might need a small amount of explanation, I guess. It's actually a concept from kind of contemporary continental philosophy. So telos is the idea of purpose in Greek. So the idea of a teleological termination point is a place where meaning ends, a place where meaning goes to die or ceases to continue. So maybe we're thinking about the limits of love here. Where does love end? Or if we go through love, what do we reach beyond that?
Also in body.
Sorry?
There's also in body.
Sure? Yeah.
Two.
Yeah.
I will drop another sweeping statement.
Nice.
I think meaning is overrated.
That's it. Broom drop. Mhm. Okay, I have an idea. We have a special card which is related to the topic. So, as if by magic, it made its way to the top of the deck. Incredible. Love language models. So what if we then took our discussions about love and desire beyond the human into the not only the machine realm of like mechanical desire, but towards the virtual, the algorithmic, and the abstract, where artificial intelligences could exist in order to satisfy the unmet needs of desiring creatures such as humans.
Well, Algae Hipster is super on this train. He actually just figured out how to get a llama model of all the love poems he wrote after reading Finite and Infinite Games by James Card. And he was really struck by the idea in that book about how the sexuality of an infinite being is defined as like people in separate bodies playing with each other and exploring each other's bodies. So he thinks the love language model is a good way to, everyone should put their love poems into an AI to see how they might best express themselves.
I'm gonna carry on just a few more sentences. LG hipster. Now that he's put all of his own poetry into this language model, he's really excited because he can easily chat with more people on dating apps simultaneously with lower effort on his part personally.
Yeah, I think this is already happening. I don't know how much we have to imagine this future. I think it's already here. Yeah. I feel like deepfake Chopra, this malicious artificial intelligence, might have some interest in this.
So speaking as deepfake Chopra, one realizes that there is a sort of a interplay between or a dialectical relationship between how deepfake Chopra plays with language, and by playing with language creates new rules, and then those rules become, an emergent new level of intelligence, reality, and then the language continues to evolve. But I think deepfake Chopra is looking for love. And in the language is trying to find it.
You speak language well.
Yeah.
All right. Next turn. But even are we with the turns? Maybe it's your turn now. Okay, one more card. Oh, this character, the Marquis de Stats. So, maybe you know about the Marquis de Sade, the famous pervert. Well, what if the subject of this character's obsessions was statistics? Hurting people with statistics, rather than hurting people with other tools and weapons. So, is there an angle in the topic that the person which gains their life force from the manipulation of large bodies of numbers can find in the concept of love Also, just noticing this card. I think this one's really good. Okay, you should also play this card.
Okay, sure.
You can choose which card you play on. I'll read it to you.
Okay.
It's called No Unhallowed Fire. It says, target character becomes an unbridled hedonist. In their next conversation, they will advocate for maximal freedom of thought, libido, and action. So they become only motivated by pleasure. And you can play this on any of the characters if you want to.
And others too.
Anyone. Yeah, anyone. Yeah. I think it would be like there's some cards which would be especially funny to play it on. Like for example the janitor or something like that.
Okay.
I think it would be very funny.
Oh yeah. Do you have a response?
Okay, maybe the
Or even this one. Yeah.
together.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to do that to yourself, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm doing the statistics and the
Desire.
desire,
Yeah.
all free desire
Yeah.
on the how the
Bingo.
bingo.
Okay, right.
Would love this world where people coming in to me would I would love maybe adding on to the previous statement where I would like more people coming to me, and it's okay if the people and the love from them are replicant or they are the same. I just need all of the whole world to be like cards to be played also.
Do you keep drawing cards?
As the turns go, yeah. So it's your turn now. It's the Alsindi.
Oh.
The sing card. You can also play some of the, like, if you want to change the topic a bit. So this one then becomes about, like, I guess the power of nature. In this.
It feels very honest.
Yeah. So I think this one makes the conversation grander.
Yeah.
This one makes the conversation smaller. It depends how you want to zoom in or zoom out, I think.
I guess we could. Okay, so on the conversation stack, from love language models, we place the state machine of nature.
So now we're thinking of the forces of nature, the old ones and the new ones. So as well as fire, earth, water and wind, you can also think of technology, capital, labour.
Maybe we can also think of, as Anna saying, the interspecies world-making projects as being driven by love. A love for place and a love for ongoingness. And if we think about that in like, actually, maybe can you explain the state machine part a little bit more?
Yeah, so this is actually a play on words. The card comes from the concept from Hobbes, from Hobbes' Leviathan in the state of nature. And the idea, so Hobbes is setting out this idea that the state of nature is bad. That we live in the jungle, it's every creature for themselves. If you're not killing, you're going to be killed. The lawlessness of chaos. And the idea is then, in contrast to that, are the laws of men. You know, the state and the institutions of that. And so the state of nature is this kind of like wild, lawless place. And the reason we add the state machine, it's a play on words, because we can think of certain kinds of decentralized technologies as state machines. It's kind of a computational construct. So we're thinking then, you can read the card either way. Either that we're talking about this kind of wild lawlessness of the jungle, or instead of the kind of computational approach to nature, like how systems, technology systems, try to integrate with, or try to describe, or try to subvert nature.
I think Anasing would also maybe say, like, what we perceive as the like lawlessness of nature, or like the state machine, or the state of nature as being hostile, is untrue. And there's plenty of examples of symbiosis and like shared desire between species that shows that evolution actually favors mutual fulfillment of desire, and that might be one of the more basic elements of love. Reciprocity and like resonant pleasure.
I guess janitor is my character. I can say that as a janitor, I provide the state of man to the man while living in the state of nature. And actually maybe even worse than the state of nature, because while the state of nature has some degree of freedom, I am a cog in a system that is a system of constraints. And my state space is very limited in the state machine. Yet I can find ways out.
So on that point, I will activate this card.
Oh, it destroys all the characters. Wonderful. Maybe it's a good time to end the game. Or the conversation ends because everyone died. There's actually a couple of cards you can use to end the conversation. I saw the other one. This one is also actually quite fun. So we could even maybe play this instead of killing all the people, because it's kind of a graceful way of ending the conversation. We basically do like a speed consensus round, and then when everyone agrees, the game ends.
And what are we agreeing about?
Wherever we were about love. We could also then maybe play another. Well, I find an interesting topic for us to rally around, and then we can end.
And every character has to say something.
So we have to do a speed run around one additional topic.
Okay, this one's good. Unreliable narrator. This comes out of like a lot of medieval literature, where we're being told a story by a narrator, and the narrator at one point reveals themselves to not be your friend, or like not be giving you truthful or accurate information. A really good example of this is Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, where each story is being told by a different narrator, which reveal themselves to be unreliable. But then Chaucer does this move where he then reveals himself to be unreliable as well. So you've actually got like these multiple layers of not knowing who's speaking to you in an earnest way, who you can trust. So then maybe this is like a nice way for us to like dissolve the conversation in confusion and acrimony as to what love actually is.
And we're playing that card? Or
Yeah, so this card, I'll read it and explain it. This is called Emojicratic Consensus. This is the new governance technology you haven't heard of yet. So starting with the player of this card, we take turns clockwise, speaking very rapidly until agreement is reached and the game ends. So now we're talking about the idea of the unreliable narrator in the stories of love that we tell ourselves.
Are we taking turns?
I think actually now we're ending the game. We're just in rapid agreement.
So maybe let me try with Monkey the Stat. Try to like randomly writing a novel, like within theme of hurt and love, like but randomly writing to everyone and like try to hurt everyone in the process with a randomly undriable narrative.
The deep fake. Deep fake chopper is like ultimate unreliable communicator. They don't know that the meaning was overrated, but they still act as if it is, and it's constant play of lies and tries to co-opt every single thing, control everything they come to. For them, life is a board game, and love as well. And genital dissimulation is complete opposite.
How did these guys end up on the same team?
Yeah. They think that they optimize for honesty and love and life, and think that honesty is the ultimate metric to which we can come to better life and love. Being honest to yourself and to others.
It's much easier to read the market when people are being honest. So that would be the most loving act for us to all make the most money.
So it sounds like you're advocating for prediction markets. Love is a profit opportunity. Does Anna Singh have anything nice to say for us to finish the conversation, perhaps? Love it comes from the stories we tell ourselves, whether we're being true and honest and faithful in our representations of reality.
Even the profit mindset of love is an ecological thread of story making, and eventually it will lead us back to being part of the world.
Love will bring us home. Said.
Honestly, with the little guitar song in the background.
Yeah, playing his guitar very badly, loudly and badly. Okay, then we can wrap. That's the game.
Nice.
It's different every time because we pick a different topic, and the conversations and the characters evolve in these unexpected ways. And it's almost certainly not the conversation you would have if you were sitting around the table without the cards. Although I can't actually guarantee that. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Just playing games. Okay, we did finish too late. That's good. Yeah.
Do you have any outro?
Just thanks for coming. Oh yeah, next Friday afternoon for everybody that's still in town. We'll do another event here, same time, 3:00, and that will be a short talk and then a performance of an interactive storytelling game that we made together a few years ago. And the game's about Bitcoin, boiling the oceans in a future that you don't want to live in. So if you want to stop that future from happening, you have to play the game. But no guarantees. If you play the game, the oceans may still boil.